Well, as I look back on Saturday, first of all, it was an important win for us. I mean, and it was an important win for a couple of reasons. Our star didn't have his best game. Our shooters didn't shoot the ball great. And yet, I think we found a way to win. And we won more defensively. We won with our rebounding. Things that we haven't maybe done as well during the year, we won that way. It was disappointing when I was in the game because I felt we took some bad shots, which I think we did for the first time, more than a couple. But at the same time, poor Bryn, I thought he was 1 for 7 or 8 from the three, and I thought every one of them was a good shot. So it just goes to show the old adage, if you live by the three, sometimes you can die by the three. And still got to have a ground game, and I thought we did a little better job getting the ball inside second half, learned a few lessons on that. It's an important week for us this week because anytime you have finals, there's a distraction. And what physically doesn't get you, mentally does. And I think we need to get better as a team. We have a lot of room for improvement. But maybe the best part about it is, or the best reason we have for having a good week is we got a tough team to play. It's an important 2-game stretch for us to close out the non-conference. Personally, there is reasons. Program-wise, there's reasons. But the biggest reason is this team trying to be different than some other teams that haven't been able to accomplish what this team has a chance to in the first phase of the season. As far as Northeastern goes, you're talking a team that's going to play 4 seniors, I think, start 3, a redshirt junior, another junior, a very experienced team. The game's already a sellout. I guess it's in the oldest active men's basketball arena in the country. Jim Calhoun coached there. Of course, he was here for the game the other night, and he said, "You're playing who, where, when?" And when I told him, I didn't feel as good after I told him. He said they're a good team. They almost beat Notre Dame last year in the tournament. Now, they have had a weird year this year. They lost to a couple teams I didn't think they'd lose to, but they beat a Miami team who had just come off some of the biggest wins of the year for Miami. So there's no doubt it's a very good team. There are 4 starters back. They were an NCAA team last year. They're very well coached. And watching that game against Notre Dame, I mean, it wasn't a fluke. They looked good. They're very experienced and very solid offensively. Haven't been quite as good defensively so far, but they've shown some excellent shooting. I talked to one of my former assistants, Doug Wojcik, who knows the Walker kid, who is a 6'6" guard from Ohio that is playing very well. He's averaging almost 21 points a game, and he's shooting 46 or 7% from the three. So if you can do that, it doesn't matter who you're playing or where you're playing them. So the game is a major concern for me because, people around here don't have any idea who Northeastern is. And players don't have as good an idea who Northeastern is. Now, I think it'll help after today's practice when we show our players some film of their game against Notre Dame last year. It'll help connect the dots a little bit. But it'll be a unique trip for us. Everybody knows it's this men's basketball, women's basketball, hockey. It'll be kind of a unique time to get together with your other sporting groups or teams on campus. And hopefully it'll be a big alumni thing for us out there too, because I hope we bought some of the 8,000 to 10,000 tickets that have been sold out. I hope we get a lot of them in there. So open for some questions. I guess I'd finish by saying this week, I think we really need to spend some time on us, really need to spend some time on our offensive stuff. We went into last week saying we got to do a good job defensively. Their fast break is lethal. They're a good rebounding team. We attacked those 2 areas. I thought we did a good job of that. But I did think we did a very average job executing, especially on our fast break and press breakers. I thought we did an average job of shot selection, maybe even poor. But the other thing we did average at, we just didn't shoot the ball on the good shots that we did have, which was more than a couple. Questions?
How much of a struggle worker, not struggle, but you played 10 games, I believe, in 25 or so days. Now you only play 2 games over the next 2 weeks or so. So when you add in finals into that, how tough is that going to be on the guys going from the physical exhaustion, now to the mental exhaustion, and then having to prep for 2 games in 4 days?
Well, I told my AD the other day, this has been, and I know some of you guys that have been with us a long time, 10 games in 25 days is 10 games in 25 days. You add to that we end up playing more road games than any top 20 team in America. I don't know why. I started looking at next year's schedule, it's worse. So I constantly have to blame. The only guy I can blame, that's myself. But I until this year, I never realized, maybe the California trip was a little different, but how much that takes out of you. Denzel's legs were gone, and it wasn't. We've been so smart on practice and on everything else, and he's eating better, resting better. It just, as you said, it's the plain drain of traveling, playing big games, playing with pressure on you. And finals, thank God right now, our guys are doing really well in school. So there's not the pressure on them that we need someone to pass classes to be eligible and this and that. We're not in that shape, but we're still, finals are finals. And for everyone in this room, finals are no fun. If you enjoy finals, you should be put away. As far as I'm concerned, that hasn't changed since Gus took finals. So there are a strain on you. If there's a premium put on academics, which I think we do, and we're changing practices this week. We didn't practice yesterday because a lot of finals today. We're not practicing Wednesday because of finals. And then the days in between, we're adjusting nights, days, early, late, just because we're trying to get them, tutoring and everything the best we can get them. But a lot of these guys have missed a lot of school already. And I think that's what the average public doesn't appreciate is, you miss, 3 days on a class that meets twice a week for 3 weeks. If you miss those 3 times, you're missing a lot of that class. And it's not because they're skipping it. So I have great respect for finals week. I think it was a good move when they, a few years ago, don't let us play a game during finals week. I think that was a smart move. The problem is now you cram them in before, and then you go on the road for a big game right after. I don't know. Every group handles that a little differently, depending how taxing their finals are, how many they have. Some have 1 and some have 4, and some have them done on Monday, and some we have Thursday and Friday right before we leave. Concern, worry, excuse, name whatever one you want, but the reality of it, sometimes mental fatigue is worse than physical fatigue.
Tom, any update on Gavin Schilling? Any chance?
He went through warm-ups like the pregame where he's doing some layups, he's doing some jumping now. It's slow. It is slow. I do not envision him being ready to play by Saturday. But I guess there is a slight possibility. And then you got to weigh it. Do you want him playing the next day, or do you give him another week that he'll be off instead of taking a chance? The 2 thoughts of wisdom are, if he plays in that game, at least he gets a game under his belt before the Big Ten. Or the other one is he gets another week to make sure that thing on an injury that is strange, those kind of injuries, the more rest you can give them, the better, till you get it totally healed so it doesn't linger. And I'm leaning towards the second. But then I also, unlike a fan, knows that it's not going to happen in the first week or something. So that's what I'm battling. I'm totally going to go with what the trainers think as far as this week. And if it's like I think it's going to be, probably waiting till after Christmas.
2 questions. First, you told us last week you were going to look into traveling to the Cotton Bowl. Have you made any decisions there?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I haven't made a decision yet. I know my heart wants to. I mean, my heart wants to take the whole team, the secretaries and everybody else with us, because it would be a incredible experience. And it kind of depends on how we finish out here, and it kind of depends on how we are mentally. I'm not worried about the preparation for the games, because I can do that same preparation no matter where I am. Sometimes I'd like to be out of here, because I think you have more control of your guys when you're away than when you're home sometimes. But it'll be a decision we'll probably make early next week.
Secondly, you're a realist, and I know you keep hammering on wanting to shorten your bench. But quite frankly, being a realist, when you look at your roster, you recruited these guys. How can you, and is at this point something you just quit talking about reducing it and live with what you have?
Well, I semi-reduced it a little bit if you look at the last game as far as the minutes. I mean, it was down to probably 9 guys played any kind of significant minutes. So I'd say maybe you reduced it a little bit. But I think your point is correct. I also know that, getting Marv in there a little bit more helps some. And he played better, and I'm starting to see the rebounding and the things that I think he can do. He's still nowhere near where he needs to be offensively, but he'll get there. And then you still got to add Gavin in there, So I looked at a couple guys I didn't think played quite enough minutes. I looked at a couple guys I thought Denzel and Brent maybe played too many minutes. Can we get Aaron some of those minutes? Can we get Didi? Matt played quite a few minutes and did a good job, but can we get Didi some in there so we can stay fresher? And I've gone through and looked at a lot of good teams, and there's 2 trains of thought. You either got 7 or you got 10. It doesn't seem to be a lot in the middle, and maybe we're playing a bunch of guys in 25, 6, 7 minutes, and we're going to get fresher. We did want to put more pressure on. We did not think that was the team to do it with. I think this week we'll be working on it more, and because of that, I think we'll be able to play more guys. And we thought really Florida wore down a little bit as the game went on, and that's what we'd like to try to do. So your question is probably giving it a politician's answer, that I don't want to confine myself to one thing, but I think you're right that it isn't all bad having depth as long as the guys understand it. We've done a better job with our scout team now, where we're trying to work in the 10 guys on a consistent basis that are playing. And, we played 9 in the last game, and it was pretty good. And so I think if we can keep it at 9 or 10, it'll be okay.
A couple questions on Costello. First of all, just wondered if you ever take note of some of the celebrations that he does after some of these plays. For example, his high step thing after the steal. You didn't notice that in the film? Okay.
I never seen him high step. I unfortunately I see a lot of low steps, but no, I haven't seen that. So I'm glad you brought it to my attention. But if Matt's one of those guys that if he is celebrating, it's probably a good thing. Not a over emotional guy, but if it's disrespectful, then I'd have to look at it the other way.
No, it was just interesting. But just in terms of his aggressive, it seemed like the other day, he had a little bit more. In other games it wanes. What is the key to having him always?
My guy said, and this is to your point, we felt Matt was really tired for a few games, and I please make sure I'm not making excuses. I'm trying, like you are, to see why a guy would be a little more up and down. It was interesting since we got back from California. I've been telling Zell that his shot seems flat. Your shot is flat when you don't have your legs in it. And yesterday we had a good talk about it. We broke down some film on watching his shots, and they were, and he said he felt like he had no lift. I mean, the first time he didn't rebound at all, and so we learned from the experience. I think we'll do a better job. I think one thing I got to get him is out of the gym some. He's in there so much. Got to find the happy medium. We got to appreciate the 10 games in 25 days, and even worse in that one stretch, and just try to learn from it and grow from it. But we are concerned on why Costello seems to have a lot more lift one game than the other, and some of it might be our fault. Second half we went to him a little bit more, and he responded, but sometimes we don't go to him because we see him plodding up and down the floor. So something that we're talking to our guys about, what I don't worry about is that they're not taking care of themselves. I think this team has done as good a job of that as any team I've had, and I just think it's been more our situation with the travel and the games, and hopefully now that'll even out a little bit more. We get more in a consistent 2 games a week, boom, boom, boom.
Tom, one more win and you guys tie the best start in this program history. How significant is that to you?
Well, it means nothing in the big picture, but for me it means a lot because I've always tried to push for each team to kind of have its own footprint, something that it can hang its hat on. And, you hope it's in Final Fours and all this stuff. But, one thing we talked about this team early in the year, one of the goals was to win that preseason tournament, which we haven't done a very good job of, to be perfectly blunt about it. And one of them is not lose a home game, which we haven't done a great job of. I mean, I say not a great job. 1 or 2 losses to us is not good. But, we didn't really talk about breaking the best start record until it started to become a reality. And I think this is the kind of team, when you look at our non-conference schedule compared to a lot of teams, it's significant, and it would be their way of maybe, they get sick of hearing about the Cleaves and the Waltons and the Day-Days and the this and the that, because that's what you do when you coach. You compare your teams to other teams, but most of the reasons you're comparing them is for significant achievements. And I think that this would be a significant achievement and a way to put themselves in a record book, and so, as I've always done, I want all team goals, but I like some individual goals where a guy can say, hey, you know what, Cleaves, you won the national championship, but, we did some things too that put our footprint here, and that's what these kind of milestones do. They're insignificant as far as winning the Big Ten or getting to the NCAA tournament or getting to a Final Four, even winning a national championship. They're semi-insignificant, but they're significant, and it's an accomplishment that a few people have done. And that's the way I try to approach them, to try to motivate in a small way that adds up to the big picture. Let's look at some small things we can achieve on the way and see if that helps us better when it's really nut-cutting time at the end.
Tom, whatever you do in the rotation in the front line, when Gavin comes back, do you almost start over anyway, because you have to figure out who's at the 5, then who's at the 4, and what minutes? It really doesn't make a huge difference until then, I guess.
Well, it doesn't, and it's not going to make a huge difference then either, because it is what it is. I mean, I can beat around the bush, and I'm some of the times I'm trying to convince myself, but let's face it, guys, this is a good problem to have. And, as I've said often, players earn the right. It won't be me choosing one guy to play a few more minutes because I like his girlfriend. It won't be me choosing another guy because, and I'm not going to put Kobe in there because he's going to operate on me 20 years from now. I'm not going to do those things. I'm going to find out the best guys that perform the best, not only in games but in practice, to help us win. I do think the rotation will change a little bit. We might move Javon back to the 3 some. We might move Day-Day might get a few more minutes at the 4. Day-Day. Didi, Day-Day. I got a lot of good names around here. But, and Gavin, though, in fairness to him, is not going to come back after not being able to do anything. I mean, he's able to ride a bike. He can shoot a few free throws. He can't shoot a jump shot up till recently. He couldn't do any running till recently. So that process, if you break your hand, you can still work out. If you, hurt your shoulder, you can still do some cardiovascular. The way he's been, that toe has created him to not be able to shoot, not be able to run, and those two things are important when you're an athletic big. So the good news is he's kind of more like a down lineman than a quarterback or a receiver. It's not as much a skill position, and his worth is not predicated on his jump shot. So I think he'll come back faster than maybe a perimeter guy or a shooting forward, but it's still not going to be overnight. And I think it'll play itself out. And I think you'll see us be able to play differently too. I mean, and nothing against the officiating, but it is in the back of everybody's mind, players and coaches. And if you have too deep at each position, I mean, we know we're not too deep with Zell because he's a different kind of player. But other than that, we can be too deep at each position for sure. I think it gives more freedom to maybe move DD and play too big some. It gives us more options that really we don't have right now, even though I'd like to do that. And I've done it in a couple games. It's been more by necessity because I'm afraid to play them both together because of foul trouble or conditioning for bigs or whatever.
For those of us that have covered you a long time, it's unique to watch how you've evolved. And with this team this year, two times in the last game, one with Bryn and one with Marvin, they made mistakes, and it was going into timeouts. And you stood up to the light into them, and they were so mad at themselves. At one point, you even turned to DJ and just kind of shrugged your shoulders like, I guess I'm a therapist. How refreshing is it to coach guys that you don't have to say anything, where you're more of compassion-oriented than the barking Izzo we've had to see in years in the past?
There's a little truth to that. There is a little truth to that. There's what a coach wants to see is the same thing a parent wants to see. It's no different than what all you guys want to see with your own kids. You want to see somebody understanding that they didn't do what was right. And if they understand that and show some compassion in that or show some understanding in that, you don't have to say as much. I mean, it's like I said, this is really not that difficult. But, over the years, different kinds of guys do different things. And this team has been so solid in practice and their summer workouts and their trip to Italy. They've earned the right to be able to do something like Bryn. How many times did you see a guy go 1 for 7 or 8 and I gave him the hockey number 1 star, because I felt like he was doing all the other things, and and I don't remember saying a word to him about his shot during the game. I also know he's in every day working on his shot. I know what's important. I know he's improving on his defense. I know he's improving on his communication a lot. It's been refreshing is a good word. And I think our seniors deserve some credit for that and the leadership they showed. And like I said, someday I think Didi's going to be playing at another level. And hopefully he's sending Kobe something, because Kobe does a lot for him too. Remember my great theory, a player-coach team is much better than a coach-coach team, especially when I'm coaching them. But these players have helped one another, and they do confront one another, and they do encourage or hold them a little more accountable. And so then the coach doesn't have to do as much. It's awesome.
Anything else at the podium? A little bit of time for a round table.
Let's do it.